I wasn't supposed to wake up during that procedure, but I did, and that's how I caught my wife kissing my best friend next to my hospital bed, while they whispered about which of my possessions they'd sell after I was gone. What they didn't know was that not only would I survive cancer, but I'd live long enough to make them regret ever wishing for my death. The steady beep of heart monitors masked their whispers, but not enough. Through the haze of sedatives, I watched my wife Riley's fingers intertwine with Jason's. My best friend since college, my business partner, my brother in everything but blood. "The doctor says his organs are starting to fail," she whispered, her voice lacking any trace of the grief you'd expect. "We might not need to wait much longer." Jason pulled her closer, lips brushing her ear. "What about the life insurance paperwork?" "All set. Triple payout for death during medical treatment." I wanted to scream, to rip out my IV and confront them. But my body was paralyzed by medication while my mind remained cruelly alert. So I lay there, watching them kiss passionately beside what they thought was my unconscious body, planning their future on the timeline of my death. I'm Austin Walker. At 40, I had designed award-winning buildings across Denver's skyline, married my college sweetheart, and built what I thought was an unshakable circle of friends. This is how I discovered that while cancer was trying to kill my body, the people I loved most were waiting to bury what remained of my life. The irony still haunts me. My career was built on creating unshakable foundations, structures that could withstand natural disasters. Yet, I never reinforced my personal life against betrayal. That foundation began 12 years ago on Mount Bierstadt. I was halfway up the trail when I saw her, a flash of copper hair against the Colorado sky. Riley Matthews, already at the summit, looking down at the struggling climbers with an amused smile. By the time I reached the top, breathless and sweating, she was sitting cross-legged on a rock, eating an apple as casually as if she were in a park. "Took you long enough," she said, offering me her water bottle. That boldness, that confidence, it's what made me fall for her. 3 years later, we married in a small ceremony at Garden of the Gods, the red rocks behind us like sentinels. We built what I thought was the perfect life, successful careers, a home I designed myself, and a close circle of friends, anchored by my college roommate and business partner Jason. Jason and I met in our first engineering class at Colorado State. We pulled all-nighters together, challenged each other, eventually started our architectural firm as equal partners. He was the creative visionary, I was the structural pragmatist. When his first marriage imploded, he lived in our guest room for months. I still remember Riley bringing him comfort food, sitting with him for hours as he processed his grief. "You two saved me," he told us on his last night before moving into his new apartment. "I don't know how I'll ever repay you." 5 years later, when he met Olivia, a pediatric nurse with quiet strength and endless compassion, we celebrated as if she were a gift to our entire friend group. The four of us became inseparable. Christmas in Aspen, summer barbecues, joint anniversary celebrations. Last winter, just 3 months before my diagnosis, we took a cabin in Breckenridge. There's a photo from that trip that perfectly captures what I thought we had. Riley and I building a snowman with Jason and Olivia, all of us laughing as the sun caught the diamond dust snow. I kept that photo beside my hospital bed during early treatments. Now I understand why Riley tried to accidentally knock it over so many times. Looking at it now, I can see what I missed then. Her hand lingering on Jason's arm, the way they stood slightly closer than friends should. "I've never seen two couples more perfect for each other," our friends would say. If only they knew that while I designed dream homes for our clients, my wife and best friend were secretly designing my funeral. The cough started after that Breckenridge trip. Nothing serious at first, just a persistent tickle I blamed on the dry winter air. Then came the night sweats, the unexplained weight loss, the fatigue that coffee couldn't touch. Riley noticed before I admitted it to myself, her accountant's mind cataloging the symptoms with alarming precision. "You need to see a doctor," she insisted one morning after I coughed so hard I had to sit on the bathroom floor to recover. Her concern seemed so genuine then. Her hand cool against my forehead, her eyes wide with worry. That same evening, I now know, she texted Jason, "It might be serious. Come over tomorrow when he's at his consultation." A diagnosis hit like a wrecking ball to the chest, stage 2B non-small cell lung cancer. Unusual in non-smokers my age, but not unheard of. Dr. Patterson, a pulmonary oncologist with kind eyes and brutal honesty, laid out the odds in his wood-paneled office. "This is serious, but treatable. With your age and fitness level, you have about a 65% 5-year survival rate." He outlined an aggressive treatment plan: surgery to remove part of my right lung, followed by chemotherapy. As he spoke of survival statistics and treatment protocols, something shifted in Riley's eyes. Not when he said cancer, but when he said treatable. I misread it as relief. Only later would I understand it was disappointment. The timeline she and Jason had begun calculating was longer than they hoped. Jason arrived at the hospital within an hour of my call, still in gym clothes, sweat staining his shirt. He hugged me fiercely, then Riley, holding her longer than necessary, but detail my mind filed away but didn't process. "Whatever you need, brother. I'm here. We're all here." Those words would become darkly ironic in the months ahead. The surgery ravaged me in ways I hadn't anticipated. Simple movements became Herculean tasks. Riley managed my medications with careful precision, brought me protein shakes I couldn't taste, and fielded concerned calls from clients and friends. But she grew increasingly attached to her phone, stepping out for calls that sometimes lasted an hour. "The firm needs me to handle both our clients now," she explained when I questioned her. "I'm just trying to keep our business afloat while you heal." I believed her because the alternative was unthinkable. The pain medication made it easy to accept simple explanations, to ignore the growing inconsistencies. Chemotherapy transformed me into someone I didn't recognize in the mirror. 30 pounds vanished from my already lean frame. My dark hair fell out in clumps that clogged the shower drain. Food tasted like metal. Every nerve ending screamed with neuropathy pain. The anti-nausea medications left me drifting between alertness and fog. That's when the pattern emerged. Riley would accompany me to the first 20 minutes of my 4-hour chemo sessions. Then her phone would buzz. Work emergency. She'd mouth apologetically to the nurses. Within 30 minutes of her departure, Jason would arrive, magazines tucked under his arm, protein shake in hand. "Riley's struggling," he'd explain, settling into the chair she'd vacated. "Seeing you like this is destroying her. I told her I'd take the tough shifts so she can stay strong for you at home." I believed him because the alternative was unthinkable, but questions accumulated like malignant cells. Why had Riley started taking hour-long showers immediately upon returning home? Why did her girls' nights increase from monthly to weekly? Why did she smell like Jason's distinctive sandalwood cologne? Why did she turn her phone face down whenever I entered the room? The pieces connected with devastating clarity during my 3rd round of chemotherapy. While scrolling through our shared cloud account looking for meditation recordings, I noticed dozens of recently deleted photos. Technical glitches had left thumbnails visible, though the images were gone. I recovered them using a backup system I'd designed. There she was, my wife, at restaurants I'd never seen, at concerts we were supposed to attend together before my diagnosis, and most damning, at our lake house that had supposedly been closed for winter. In every photo, the same configuration: 2 wine glasses, intimate lighting, and someone taking the picture of her. Someone with Jason's distinctive gold watch visible in one reflective surface. The second confirmation came when I borrowed Riley's laptop to pay bills while she shopped for groceries. A message notification appeared from Work Project X. "Last night was incredible. Can't wait to feel you again tomorrow. Do you think he suspects anything?" My hands trembled so violently that I knocked over a glass of water, shorting out the laptop before I could read more. But it was that hospital room moment, overhearing their conversation, watching them kiss beside what they thought was my unconscious body, that shattered any possibility of denial. As they discussed the life insurance policy Riley had increased without my knowledge and their timeline contingent on my deterioration, something crystallized inside me alongside the poison dripping into my veins. If I was fighting cancer with every cell in my body, I would fight this betrayal with equal determination, and so began my secret war, not just against the cancer invading my lungs, but against the betrayal poisoning my life. That night in the hospital changed everything. The next morning, I looked at my situation with new clarity, as if the fog of trust had finally lifted. I became two people, the cancer patient fighting for survival, and the betrayed husband methodically building a case. The investigator in me, the part that analyzed structural failures and disaster scenarios, took control when the husband in me wanted to crumble. My brother Ethan had always been suspicious of Riley's perfectionism. When I called him, voice breaking as I shared my discoveries, he didn't question my sanity or suggest I was paranoid from medications. He simply said, "I'll be there tomorrow, and I'm bringing help." The help was Thomas Reeves, a former FBI agent turned private investigator who specialized in infidelity cases. His fee, $8,500, came from my retirement account, money that should have funded the future I'd planned with Riley. "Cancer's expensive enough without adding my services," Reeves said gruffly as we met in my hospital room. "But this type of betrayal? That's a different kind of cancer, and it needs treatment too." For 3 weeks, Reeves documented their affair with clinical precision while I endured my 4th round of chemotherapy. Each day brought new evidence, each revelation more painful than the last. They met at the Grand Aspen Hotel every Tuesday and Thursday during lunch hours, with Jason booking the room through his company account. They spent Sunday afternoons at our lake house, the sanctuary I'd designed to be our retirement haven. They used my car when hers was in the shop. They drank my rare whiskey collection while lounging in my custom-designed home office. The most sickening revelations came from conversations Reeves recorded in restaurants using directional microphones. They discussed which of my possessions they'd keep for memory's sake and which they'd sell. Riley laughed about how Jason would finally get my vintage Rolex, the watch my father had given me before he died. They speculated on how much longer I had, with Riley sharing privileged information from private conversations with my doctors. Dr. Patterson mentioned his concern about the latest blood work. She told Jason over dinner at my favorite steakhouse, her hand casually swirling a glass of wine I'd been saving for our anniversary. "He's not responding to treatment as well as they hoped. It might be over by summer." "That fast?" Jason asked, reaching for her hand across the table. "If we're lucky," Riley replied, squeezing his fingers. "I don't know how much longer I can play the devoted wife. It's exhausting." "Just a little longer, baby," Jason reassured her. "Then we'll have the insurance money, sell the Denver properties, and start fresh in Portland. No one will know us there." The PI captured it all on video, along with evidence that Riley had increased my life insurance policy to $3 million, just 3 weeks after my diagnosis, paperwork I vaguely remembered signing in a post-surgical haze when she claimed they were routine medical forms. Each new piece of evidence was like another round of chemotherapy, poisonous, painful, but necessary to excise the cancer of deception from my life. And like chemotherapy, it left me nauseated and exhausted. Meanwhile, my actual cancer battle continued. After my 4th chemotherapy round, Dr. Patterson delivered cautiously optimistic news. The tumors were shrinking, not dramatically, but noticeably. "Your body is fighting hard, Austin," he said, studying my latest scans. "Are you doing something different? Your numbers have improved since last time." What was different? Only my newfound determination to survive, not just cancer, but this betrayal. I'd started taking the anti-nausea medications more consistently so I could eat. I forced myself to walk the hospital corridors between treatments. I downloaded meditation apps focused on healing and survival. "Just finding my fight," I told him, not mentioning that my fight now had 2 fronts. The timing was perfect. I decided to use this medical improvement as the foundation for my confrontation. I texted both Riley and Jason, Got results back. Doctor needs to discuss options with both of us. Can you both come to the house tomorrow at 7? That night, I prepared methodically. I connected my laptop to our living room television, organizing the evidence chronologically. I placed 3 crystal glasses, wedding gifts from Riley's parents, on the coffee table, alongside a bottle of 30-year-old Macallan I'd been saving to celebrate my remission. I wrote down everything I needed to say, knowing emotions might derail me otherwise. As I arranged the final details, I realized I felt something I hadn't experienced since my diagnosis: power. For months, cancer had stripped me of control. Riley and Jason had exploited my weakness. Tomorrow, I would reclaim my narrative. They arrived within minutes of each other, a pitiful attempt at discretion. Riley kissed my cheek, her hand lingering on my shoulder in what once would have seemed like affection. Jason brought takeout from my favorite Thai restaurant. Thought you might need comfort food for whatever news is coming, he said. The concern in his eyes looked so genuine that for a single moment, I doubted everything. Then I remembered the hospital room, their whispers beside my supposedly unconscious body, and my resolve hardened. Sit down, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. I do have news, but not about my cancer. I clicked the remote. The first image appeared on screen, them kissing in our lake house bed. Riley gasped. Jason froze mid-step, takeout bags dangling from his hands. I've known for weeks, I continued, advancing through photos, text screenshots, and finally video clips. I heard you in my hospital room. I know about the life insurance. I know about Portland. With each statement, I placed another piece of evidence on the table between us, like toxic specimens. Riley recovered first. Austin, this isn't, she started, then stopped as I played audio of her discussing my prognosis. Her strategy shifted instantly. You have no idea what this has been like for me. Watching you waste away, planning my life around hospital visits, wondering if each day might be your last. So you decided to make sure it would be, I asked quietly, by sharing my confidential medical information? By isolating me from other friends who might have noticed what was happening? Jason attempted a different approach. Brother, we never meant for this to happen. We leaned on each other during your illness, and feelings developed. We fought it, but don't call me brother. I cut him off, surprising myself with the cold fury in my voice. Brothers don't sleep with their dying brother's wife in the bed he paid for. They don't plan vacation homes funded by insurance money from a death they're counting down to. We weren't counting down, Riley screamed, tears streaming down her face, creating black mascara rivers on her cheeks. We were preparing for what everyone told us was inevitable. Except it wasn't inevitable, was it? I pushed a folder across the table, my latest scan results showing tumor reduction. I'm responding to treatment. I might actually survive this. Is that why you've been pressuring my oncologist's office for timeline estimates? Trying to figure out just how long your waiting period would be? The confrontation escalated over 3 excruciating hours. Riley threw a crystal glass against our fireplace when I mentioned the divorce papers already filed with my lawyer. Jason alternated between defending their relationship as real love born from mutual grief and apologizing profusely while insisting they never wished for my death. They just accepted its inevitability and found comfort in each other. Throughout it all, I remained seated, physically too weak to stand for long but emotionally growing stronger with each denial they attempted. Their justifications grew increasingly desperate as I systematically dismantled each one with evidence from the PI's report. I have one question, I said finally, when they'd exhausted their excuses. Did you ever love me at all? Riley looked at me, mascara streaked and trembling, and whispered, I did, once. That's worse, I responded. Because you knew exactly what you were destroying. I asked them both to leave. Riley tried to take her jewelry box, but I stopped her. Everything stays until the lawyers sort it out, including the diamond earrings you wore to dinner with him last week. The ones I gave you for our 10th anniversary, while I was actively dying of cancer, according to your timeline. As the door closed behind them, I poured myself a finger of the Macallan, my first alcohol since diagnosis. It burned all the way down, a cleansing fire that felt like the first honest sensation I'd had in months. I expected to collapse after they left, to crumble under the weight of what had just happened. Instead, I felt strangely light, as if expelling them from my home had removed a tumor of its own. I slept that night without medication for the first time since my diagnosis. The emotional adrenaline that carried me through the confrontation couldn't last forever. The crash came 3 days later, just after my follow-up appointment with Dr. Patterson. My latest blood panels showed concerning drops in white cell and platelet counts, reversing the progress we'd seen. Dr. Patterson called me personally, worry evident in his voice. "Something's changed, Austin. Your numbers were improving, and now they're crashing. Did something happen?" I told him everything, discovering Riley and Jason together, the life insurance policy, their countdown calendar for my death. He listened without interruption, then did something thoroughly unprofessional. He reached across his desk and hugged me. "I've seen cancer kill people, and I've seen heartbreak kill people," he said, returning to his chair. "Right now, you're fighting both, and that's not sustainable. We need to adjust our approach." He prescribed antidepressants alongside my cancer medications and insisted I see the hospital's psycho-oncologist weekly. He also did something unexpected. He called my brother directly. "Your presence isn't optional anymore," he told Ethan. "Your brother needs physical and emotional support that medical staff can't provide." Ethan arrived the next day with a small suitcase and his golden retriever, Max. He converted my home office into a bedroom without asking permission and established new household rules. I would eat 3 small meals daily, regardless of nausea. I would walk Max around the block once a day, no matter how weak I felt. I would sit outside for 20 minutes each morning, weather permitting. "This isn't a democracy anymore," he informed me when I protested. "It's a dictatorship for your own good." Meanwhile, the aftermath of my confrontation with Riley and Jason rippled through our social circle. Riley moved into Jason's apartment while telling everyone it was a temporary separation due to the stress of my illness. Jason posted vague social media apologies about complicated situations and difficult decisions made during emotional times. Within days, everyone knew. Friends chose sides, with most rallying around me, but a few insisting that these things happen during crisis, and no one chooses who they fall in love with. Those fence-sitters quickly changed their stance when someone, I still don't know who, leaked portions of the PI's report showing they'd begun their affair within weeks of my diagnosis. Not months later, as they claimed. Riley's parents, who had treated me like a son for a decade, showed up at my door unannounced one Sunday afternoon. Her father, a retired judge who prided himself on emotional control, couldn't look me in the eye as he apologized for his daughter's behavior. Her mother brought homemade soup and offered to stay and help care for me. I declined politely but firmly. Their kindness somehow made everything worse, a reminder of the family I was losing along with my wife. I hit absolute rock bottom exactly 18 days after the confrontation. My hair was completely gone. I'd lost 47 pounds from my already lean frame. The house, which I designed as a surprise for our 5th anniversary, felt like a museum of betrayal. Every room held memories now poisoned. The kitchen where we'd cooked together while dancing to 80s music. The sunroom where we'd planned our future children's names. A master bedroom where they had slept together while I underwent treatments. Sitting on our deck, overlooking the mountain view, wrapped in a blanket despite the spring warmth, I contemplated stopping treatment. The cancer was consuming my body from within. The betrayal was devouring my spirit from without. Both felt like invasive growths destroying healthy tissue. For the first time, I wondered if fighting was pointless. If Riley and Jason might actually be right about the inevitability of my death. I called my oncologist's office intending to cancel my next appointment. The receptionist put me through to Dr. Patterson immediately, unusual for the busy physician. "I was about to call you," he said, bypassing greeting. "Your latest blood work and scans came back, and I'm seeing something remarkable." "How much longer do I have?" I asked, assuming the worst. "You don't understand," he replied, barely contained excitement in his voice. "The primary tumor has reduced by nearly 43%. The lymph involvement is showing significant regression. Your body is responding to treatment faster than our models predicted." I looked down at the treatment cancellation form, half completed on my lap, suddenly aware of the cosmic irony. What does that mean for prognosis? It means we're not having end-of-life discussions anymore. We're talking about remission potential. I don't want to overpromise, but if this trajectory continues, you could be looking at complete remission within 6 months. Something shifted inside me, not physically, but fundamentally. I remembered Riley and Jason's faces when I showed them my improving scan results. They weren't just betraying me emotionally, they were actively betting against my survival, and suddenly, living well seemed like the perfect revenge. "I'll see you Thursday for treatment," I told Dr. Patterson, "and I need your help with something else, a nutrition and physical therapy plan. I'm planning to run a 5K this fall." He laughed, then realized I was serious. "Let's start with walking to the mailbox consistently first, but I like your spirit." That night, I flushed the sleeping pills I'd been hoarding, the ones I'd considered using to end the pain permanently. I wasn't going to give Riley and Jason the satisfaction of a self-fulfilling prophecy. I was going to live, not to spite them, but to spite them. And then, eventually, because life itself became worth living again. The human spirit possesses remarkable resilience, sometimes surpassing even the body's capacity to heal. As spring blossomed into summer, both my physical and emotional recovery accelerated. I approached healing like my most challenging architectural project, methodical, strategic, with contingency plans for setbacks. I joined 2 support groups, one for cancer patients and another specifically for people dealing with infidelity. In the cancer group, we shared treatment hacks and celebrated microscopic victories, a good blood count, reduced nausea, the first post-chemo hair fuzz. In the betrayal group, we processed rage, grief, and the disorienting sense that our entire reality had been a carefully constructed lie. During my 3rd betrayal support meeting, I met Emma Thompson, an oncology nurse who had lost her husband to leukemia 3 years earlier, only to discover after his death that he'd been having an affair with her sister throughout his illness. She understood both sides of my journey in ways few others could. "The hardest part of healing from betrayal," she told me during coffee after a meeting, "is that there's no blood test to measure progress, no scan to show the wound closing." She was right. Cancer recovery had protocols, measurable markers, clear milestones. My doctors could quantify tumor shrinkage percentages and blood count improvements. But how do you measure healing from betrayal? There was no blood test for trust. No scan could show a heart rebuilding itself. I created my own metrics for emotional recovery. I counted it as progress the first day I didn't check Riley's social media, progress when I boxed up our wedding photos without crying, progress when I heard Jason's favorite song at a grocery store and didn't feel like vomiting, progress when I drove past the restaurant where I'd proposed and felt nothing but mild nostalgia for the person I used to be. The divorce proceedings moved quickly, propelled by public opinion turning sharply against Riley and Jason after details of their affair leaked. Riley didn't contest anything, perhaps out of guilt or perhaps eager to start her new life unencumbered by scandal. She requested one meeting before finalizing everything. Against my lawyer's advice, I agreed. We met at a neutral coffee shop downtown. She'd lost weight, dark circles under her eyes suggesting she wasn't sleeping well. Something about her seemed diminished. The vibrant, confident woman I'd married, now replaced by someone furtive and uncertain. "I just need to know if you can ever forgive me," she said, turning her coffee cup in endless circles without drinking. "Why?" I asked. "So you can feel better about what you did?" "No," she whispered, finally meeting my eyes. "So I can believe people can change. That I'm not permanently this terrible person who hurt someone she loved." I considered her question carefully. Forgiveness isn't something I can just hand you, Riley. It's something I'm working toward for my sake, not yours. Maybe someday I'll get there. But right now, I need to focus on forgiving myself. Yourself? For what? for not seeing what was happening, for making my identity so wrapped up in us that when us died, I nearly did too. It was the most honest conversation we'd had in years. As I stood to leave, she asked, "Are you going to be okay, Austin?" Looking down at her, I realized I felt nothing. No love, no hate, just the peaceful emptiness of letting go. I already am. 2 months after that coffee shop meeting, I received news that transformed my recovery trajectory. First, my oncologist used the word remission for the first time during a follow-up appointment. Second, through mutual friends, I learned that Jason and Riley had broken up spectacularly, their relationship imploding under the weight of public scrutiny and the absence of the secrecy that had fueled their passion. I celebrated both announcements by doing something I hadn't thought possible 6 months earlier. I hiked Mount Bierstadt, the same trail where Riley had outpaced me when we first met. Emma joined me, carrying extra water and emergency oxygen just in case. When we reached the summit after nearly 5 hours of careful climbing, the Colorado landscape stretched before us like a promise. I took a photo and sent it to Dr. Patterson with the caption, "View from the top." That fall, 8 months after discovering the affair and 14 months after my cancer diagnosis, I participated in a 5K fundraiser for the cancer center that had saved my life. I was slower than most participants, but crossing that finish line wearing a shirt that read, "Stronger than cancer, stronger than betrayal," remains the most triumphant moment of my life. Emma waited at the finish line. Our relationship had evolved gradually from mutual support to something deeper. We were careful, taking things slowly, both carrying scars that needed respect. She understood that healing wasn't linear, that some days the cancer symptoms would return, and some nights the betrayal would revisit my dreams. My latest scans show no evidence of disease. I sold the house Riley and I had shared and designed a smaller, more energy-efficient home closer to the mountains. I've returned to work part-time, focusing on healthcare facilities designed with patients' emotional well-being in mind. My first project, redesigning the chemotherapy suite, where I spent so many painful hours. I recently ran into Olivia, Jason's ex-girlfriend, at a grocery store. She's engaged to an emergency room doctor now. We hugged awkwardly between produce displays, then ended up talking for an hour over coffee. "They actually did us a favor," she said as we parted. "Imagine discovering their true characters 20 years from now." She was right. There's a strange gift in having illusions shattered completely rather than living with comfortable lies. Cancer stripped away physical comforts and capabilities I took for granted. Betrayal stripped away emotional securities and relationships I thought were foundations of my life. Both left me rebuilt from the ground up, stronger, more authentic, and far more appreciative of genuine connection. Sometimes, the people who are supposed to help you survive become the reason you need to survive, and that's okay, because you'll discover you were strong enough all along. Cancer showed me how resilient my body could be. Betrayal showed me how resilient my spirit was. Together, they taught me that sometimes what feels like the end is actually the necessary clearing for a new beginning. If my story resonated with you, I'd love to hear how you've overcome betrayal or illness in your own life. Share your journey in the comments below. Subscribe to hear more stories of resilience. And remember, the chapters you're most afraid to write often become the most powerful parts of your story.